This is Miss Boo.
Bus driver told a story so scary it sent one boy into a coma and the others passed out. A survivor shared the story with me. When I was 12 years old, during a school field trip, a substitute bus driver asked if we wanted to hear the scariest story in the world. At first, everyone thought he was joking, but he kept insisting the story was too scary for kids our age. Of course, that only made everyone want to hear it more. The entire bus started shouting, "Yes." I remember rolling my eyes. I had a brand new Walkman and headphones, and I was more interested in my music than some dumb, scary story. While the other kids leaned forward in their seats, I put on my headphones and turned the volume up. I vaguely heard the driver say something like, "This story starts on a county road," but after that, I tuned him out completely. When the tape on my Walkman finally reached the end, I noticed something strange. The bus was silent, completely silent. Anyone who has ever ridden a bus full of school kids knows that never happens. There is always shouting, laughing, someone throwing paper, someone arguing, but this time, nothing. I looked up. Every single kid sat frozen, their mouths slightly open, eyes wide, like statues. I turned around to my best friend Michael, who was sitting behind me, and asked what was going on. He slowly looked up at me, his face pale. "He told us a scary story," he said in a flat voice. I asked what it was about. He just shook his head. "Can't tell you." I laughed at first, thinking they were messing with me, but nobody on the bus would answer. A few kids near the front whispered to each other nervously, and I swear I heard someone say, "Don't tell him." I looked at the bus driver in the mirror. His eyes looked strange, almost glazed, like he wasn't fully there. I asked again, louder, what the story was about, and right then, we heard a horn blaring. The entire bus jerked as a truck appeared directly in front of us. Later, they said the bus had drifted into the opposite lane. The truck driver swerved at the last second, which saved our lives. But the crash still killed the bus driver instantly. One student fell into a coma. Several of us were knocked unconscious. When I woke up, I remember seeing blue sky through the shattered windows and hearing kids crying. Smoke was rising from the bus and the truck. Everything else looked normal, almost peaceful, but the atmosphere inside the bus felt wrong, like everyone had experienced something terrible that I somehow missed. In the days that followed, I asked everyone what the story had been about. Nobody would tell me, not even my best friend Michael. Whenever I asked, he just said the same thing every time. "Nah, man, it's too scary." Eventually, I got frustrated and asked him to at least summarize it. He looked at me for a long time and then said something that stuck with me for the rest of my life. "I'll tell you when I'm 55, and no matter how many times I asked after that, nobody ever told me the story." Michael once told me he would explain the bus story when he turned 55. At the time, I thought he was joking, but the mystery haunted me for decades. Years passed, we graduated, life happened, we drifted apart. Then last year, I noticed something strange in my phone calendar, a reminder I had apparently written to myself many years ago. It simply said, Michael's birthday, 55, so I reached out to him. We decided to meet for coffee and catch up. When I saw him, I barely recognized him. His eyes were yellow, and glassy. His skin looked thin and pale. He smiled when he saw the shock on my face and casually said, "Pancreatic cancer. A few months left, probably." We talked about life for a while, old memories, our families, his grandchildren, the non-profit he started. But eventually, I asked him about the bus story. He raised his hand immediately and stopped me. "Don't ask," he said. "Every one of us who heard that story wishes we hadn't." He looked directly at me and said something that still echoes in my head. "Trust me, let it go." That was the last time I ever saw Michael alive. After that, I finally accepted the mystery would remain unsolved forever until yesterday. Yesterday, I finally heard it, completely by accident. I was sitting at a bar when I overheard a woman at a nearby table talking about a field trip bus and a driver asking if kids wanted to hear the scariest story ever told. My heart started pounding immediately. I leaned closer and realized the woman speaking was Elena, one of the girls who had been on that bus with us. She started listing things that had happened over the years. Terrible things, accidents, deaths, events that matched what the bus driver had predicted in his story. One boy in a coma, another murdered years later, someone killed in a bizarre accident at their wedding. And then she said, Michael died at 55 from cancer, exactly like the driver said he would. Then she mentioned something else, something that made my blood run cold. She said there was one kid on the bus who hadn't been listening, one kid wearing headphones. The driver had saved that kid for the end of the story, and according to Elena, the driver said one final thing. Victor dies 3 days after he hears this story. At that moment, Elena looked up and saw me standing there. I hurried away before she could say anything else. Michael and the others had protected me for decades. They kept the story away from me all those years. And now that I've heard it, I only have 3 days left.
If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe, because the next one might be even worse.